The trouble started on a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind where the ranch felt more like a sanctuary than a piece of land. The air was cool, the sky still carrying the soft pink of dawn, and I was sipping my coffee on the porch when I heard a low rumble in the distance. At first, I assumed it was a neighbor moving cattle or someone hauling equipment, nothing unusual. But the rumble grew deeper, louder, and it carried a vibration that made the windows tremble. That wasn't a truck, that was heavy machinery. I set my cup down and walked out toward the pasture, already uneasy. As I crossed the field, the sound sharpened into the unmistakable roar of bulldozers. My stomach tightened. Nobody had any reason to bring construction equipment anywhere near my property. The nearest HOA-controlled subdivision was miles down the road, and we'd never had anything to do with each other, by choice. But when I reached the ridge overlooking the lower field, I froze. Below me, a full construction crew was cutting straight across my ranch, bulldozers carving a path through the grass, trucks backing up with loud beeping, and men shouting instructions. A raw dirt road was already taking shape like a scar through the middle of my land. For a moment, I didn't move. I simply stared, trying to understand what I was seeing. They had equipment, blueprints, markers, and confidence. They were behaving like they owned the place. My place. I marched downhill, and the closer I got, the angrier I became. No one had asked permission. No one had contacted me. No one had warned me. They had simply shown up, torn down my fencing, and started cutting a road as if this land belonged to them. When the crew finally noticed me approaching, one of the workers waved casually, like I was some passerby. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I shouted over the engines. A man in a reflective vest walked over, clipboard in hand, unfazed. "Morning," he said, as if this was normal. "We're putting in the road for the HOA's new access route. Should be done in a week." I stared at him. "This is private property." He shrugged. "HOA management approved it." That sentence hit me harder than anything else he said. HOA management approved it. As if some suburban committee could override land ownership. As if a few signatures on a meeting agenda were worth more than the deed I kept locked in my safe. "Turn the machines off," I shouted. "Now." The man didn't move. He didn't even flinch. "Sir, you'll need to discuss this with the HOA. We have authorization." "I didn't authorize anything. That's between you and them," he said before turning and signaling his crew to continue. The bulldozer's blade dropped, pushing another line of soil aside, and something snapped in me. Watching them carve through land my family had tended for generations, land where I had raised cattle, repaired fences, and weathered storms, felt like someone walking into my home and tearing out walls without permission. I stormed back toward the ranch house, every step vibrating with anger. I called the HOA office, and after being passed through 3 different people, I finally reached someone who claimed to be a project coordinator. She spoke like she was reading from a script, informing me that the HOA board had voted to reroute a road for community convenience, and their survey indicated that a portion of the land was ambiguously shared. Shared. My land. Ambiguously shared. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. By noon, the construction crew had carved a crude road right through the middle of my ranch. By evening, I had already decided exactly how this was going to end. By the next morning, the shock had settled into something sharper, cold determination. I barely slept, replaying the sight of bulldozers ripping through my land. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that dirt road cutting the ranch in half like an open wound. By sunrise, I had made up my mind. If they wanted a road, they were going to have to fight for every inch of it. Before the crew returned, I walked the entire stretch of the newly carved path. Dust still hung in the air from yesterday's work. My boots sank into fresh tire tracks. The ripped-up grass and broken fence posts felt like a personal insult. This wasn't construction, this was trespassing, invasion, even. I stood there for a long time, listening to the morning settle around me, the distant call of cattle, the rustle of wind in the trees, the quiet that had always been the soul of my ranch. It was suddenly, painfully clear how much had been disrupted in just a single day. By the time I returned to the house, I knew exactly what to do. I backed my truck up to the metal storage barn and loaded the heavy steel gate I'd been planning to install on another section of my property. It wasn't meant for this road, but it would do the job even better here. The thing weighed nearly 300 pounds, and it took everything I had to maneuver it into place. Then came the posts, thick, treated timber sunk deep into the ground with concrete I mixed myself. Sweat dripped from my forehead, my shirt clinging to my back, but I kept going. Each swing of the hammer felt like reclaiming a little piece of what had been taken. By mid-morning, the gate stood across the new road like a metal wall. Strong, solid, locked with 2 heavy chains. They weren't getting through. I stepped back to admire my work, the kind of satisfaction that was part triumph, part stubborn defiance. If the HOA wanted a road through my land, they were going to have to deal with me first. I didn't have to wait long. Around noon, I heard engines approaching, not bulldozers this time, but a caravan of SUVs. The HOA had sent a delegation. 4 people climbed out, dressed like they were going to a business luncheon instead of a ranch, pressed shirts, shiny shoes, expensive sunglasses. One woman, the one who seemed to be in charge, strutted toward the gate like she expected me to unlock it on command. "What is this?" she demanded, gesturing at the gate. "Looks like a gate," I said, leaning against my truck. "You're blocking a community access road." "No," I corrected her, "I'm blocking a road you trespassed to build." She puffed up like a bird trying to look bigger. "Sir, the HOA board has already approved this project." "And I didn't," I replied. "That matters, because I own this land." The others murmured among themselves, clearly not expecting resistance. The woman stepped closer, lowering her voice as if that would make her argument more convincing. "You're creating problems for a lot of people. The residents need this road." I stared at her. "The residents don't get to vote on what happens on my ranch." Her jaw tightened. "Remove the gate." "No." There was a long, simmering silence. She looked at me like she wasn't used to hearing that word. Maybe in the HOA world, people just rolled over when told to. "We'll handle this legally," she snapped. "I figured you'd say that." They left in a cloud of dust, and for a moment, the ranch was quiet again. But the silence didn't bring comfort this time, it carried a warning. I knew people like them. They weren't going to back down just because I put up a gate. No, this was only the beginning. Still, as I stood there watching the gate gleam in the sun, I felt something stronger than fear, resolve. They had the HOA, the paperwork, the committees. But I had the land, the deed, and the will to fight.